referendum, give you a little bit of a sense of what's involved, and will allow you to kind of start asking questions about the process and what we would need to do if it's something that we feel we need to pursue going forward. So I will turn the conversation over to the two of them. So.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, as Kevin mentioned, my name is Kevin Mullen, and this is my colleague Marquez Guzman. And we both represent the school finance team at Baird, and we do slightly different things. So my role, and I've been in front of this board a number of times, and I've met several of you, but I know a couple of new faces are here. My role is that of a banker. I'm on the banking side at Baird, and our general role, my role, is to assist school districts in funding debt solutions for facilities needs, but also interface with the school district frequently when you're discussing things like your periodic defeasance of debt, which you've done in different budgets. Our school finance team is fortunate to have our school business solutions colleagues, which Marquez works with, that are, many of them are former school business officials that help school districts with very specific understanding of school challenges, including referendum. And together we both help school districts plan for referendum, whether it's capital referendum or potentially operating referendum. So our goal tonight is to really talk about three specific things related to operating referendum. We want to give you some basic knowledge as to why referendums are occurring in the state at a rapid rate, and kind of some of the financial pressures and bases that kind of precede those decisions. And then we want to give you some like swing thoughts, to use a golf term, as you're thinking about how to approach referendum. Some critical decisions and timing that you may want to have in your mind as you're thinking about whether or not an operational referendum makes sense for you. And then we want to wrap it up with just some basic specifics regarding how to proceed with regard to timeline and some process and procedural things that are necessary to move forward. And as Mr. Klimek had mentioned earlier, school districts throughout the state, for a variety of reasons, which we're going to explore in minor detail, not broad detail, throughout the state have had to consider referendum. And in fact, most school districts, I think that there are less than 18% of the school districts in the state have had to consider operational referendum throughout the last 10 years, which is really pretty incredible when you consider the number of school districts in the state. And also when you consider that you are one of the few that has not had to consider that need previously. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Marquez, and we're just going to start kind of with the fundamentals of what builds towards that operational need and why that need is there.
Yeah, so on the previous slide, it had kind of headlines from the different news sources, and if you've been paying attention, many school districts have been going to operating referendum. And so as we kind of discussed operating referendum, I think it's important to focus on the revenue limit. So that would be the first piece that we cover. And there's it's kind of a complex equation. Mr. Klimek here would probably agree that the revenue limit formula is a giant spreadsheet, and it's probably more complicated than anybody wants to go into. But when we really summarize it, it's and really the revenue limit is the maximum amount of revenue that a school district can have through state aid and property taxes. So school districts are limited in the amount of revenue they have. You can't just keep taxing residents more and more. If you do, that's where the operating referendums come in. And revenue limits started in the 1993-94 school year, so they've been around for almost a little over 30 years. And so the equation or the calculation that goes into it is a 3-year rolling average of the district's membership times the revenue limit per pupil dollar amount. And then you add in any recurring or non-recurring referendums or exemptions, and that determines your revenue limit. And so typically a revenue limit for a school district is about 90% of your overall revenue. For some, it might be a little bit less if there's a lot of federal aid coming in or whatnot, but that revenue limit is the bulk of a school district's revenue. So on the next slide, one of the things that we wanted, that first part of the revenue limit formula is the district membership. And so everybody talks about enrollment, and if you talk to your principals and superintendent, they'll give you your enrollment numbers, and so those are Brown Deere's enrollment numbers of the last 10 years or 7 years. and they are pretty steady, pretty stable. But the revenue limit formula doesn't actually use enrollment; it uses membership. And so on the next slide, we kind of break down district membership is not equal enrollment. So enrollment is that head count number. That's that first piece on this slide, head count. So that's the number of students that are in your district. But you have to subtract out any open enrollment in students to determine this membership number. And then you have to add in any students that are open enrollment out. And so those are your actual numbers from the 22-23 school year, the last year where we have public released information. And so that gives you your overall resident student count. And then there's a proration for 4K students and for early childhood students. So that 1849 number then gets multiplied by a proration amount, and you get your overall FTE. And so that FTE number is that membership number that goes into that revenue limit calculation. And so then for Brown Deer, the revenue limit per pupil dollar amount for the 23-24 school year was $12,569. So that's the amount of the district gets per student. But then you have to, the open enrollment is where things get a little bit complicated. So if you have students that open enroll in, you're getting money from those districts where those students live. And then if you have students that open enroll out, then you have to pay out those dollars to the districts where the students are attending. And the other number on the bottom of the screen, that open enrollment revenue number, is actually different than the revenue limit for pupil amount. And so for last school year, it was $8,618. So that's how much you're paying out for a student that goes to another district, or you're receiving for students that come in.
It's interesting in Brown Deer's case when you look at that number. Your revenue limit per pupil is roughly $12,500. If you have students that go out, your revenue base for that student is $12,500, but you have to send money out in the amount of $8,600 per student. So if those numbers were reversed, open enrollment out would be really harmful for you. Of course, you'd like to keep those resident students here, but open enrollment out is not necessarily financially as burdensome as it would be in some other districts. And I think that that's an important understanding when you consider, who you are and how those numbers relate.
So on this next slide, what we're trying to show is the revenue per member for districts. So in most years, the state, and then this is going back over the last decade plus, the state would increase funding on a per student basis. However, in some of the years, they actually kept it flat or didn't quite keep up with the pace of inflation. So on this chart here, the green bar is what inflation was, the inflation index, and the yellow bar is what the state actually gave in terms of dollar amount increases. So you can actually see in all those years, the yellow bar, the actual increase is less than what inflation was. And so what that's done is over time, and this is looking at the last 11 years, is it's created this cumulative difference between where inflation's been, that's that bar, that line that goes up to the right, and what we've actually received. So if the state had given the revenue limit per pupil increases that were matched to inflation, which is what they used to be up until 2009, school districts would be getting $2,300 more per student. So this is really what's created the issue of where a large number of districts across the state are having to go to operating referendums, is that the state funding is not keeping pace with inflation.
And I think that this, sorry, Kevin.
I was just going to add, obviously, the board knows we've had these conversations, and it's been highlighted in the last couple of years where inflation has been, significantly higher than the years of, 1.12 and 0.8 and whatever it was, early on in the team. But lately, when you're looking at 8%, 12%, it's like these are some pretty serious numbers, and the difference between what the state provides, just all the costs of what we're experiencing are just escalating, and that just makes it that much harder to fund the school district on the other weeks.
And so this is just, obviously just a chart, but I think what's really, for me, powerful about this is that, it helps tell the story, not necessarily your story, but it certainly impacts your story. But it tells the story of every school district in the state. If we were to expand that chart to the left, beyond 2013, when the revenue limit formula was put in place, the intent, or stated intent at that time, was that the increases would keep pace with inflation. And as Mark has mentioned, in 2013, the legislature kind of broke from that decision, and they made it more of a biennial decision as to what that change in or growth in revenue would be. And it broke from maintaining it with the increases in inflation. And you can see, as Mark has Kevin pointed out earlier, that that's created that inequity moving to the right. You'll also notice that in 2022 and 2023, there's no yellow bar. So it's been alluded to, but those were the years where there were ESSER dollars, federal funds that came to the district. And the state legislatively decided that, because you were getting additional funding from ESSER funds, that there was no increase in the per pupil spending amount. So that was frozen. Maybe made sense until you go to 2024, and then they started back with inflation, but they reset basically where you were in 2021. So, that those increases didn't compound, they just were deferred to 2024, if that makes sense. So increases were there, they were gone, and then we kind of picked back up basically where we were 2 years ago. So it kind of, you'll notice that the blue line steepens at that point. So it just created a wider gap, so to speak. So that's why we're seeing presently a lot of pressure on school districts to move forward and consider operational referendum. So as a board, you talk about the revenue limit, and that's the amount of money that's kind of the algebra in the statute that tells you how much revenue you can raise, and from either local levy or combination of local levy and state aid. If you want to exceed that amount, you have to go to referendum. So there are basically three types of referendum that the school district can consider. Probably the most common up until 3 years ago was a capital or a debt referendum, where you would ask your voters to approve a project, borrow for a project, to fund some sort of capital project, brick and mortar, something that you can see, touch. So new construction, facilities, maintenance. You would ask for a certain dollar amount for a very specific described project, and you could borrow that project. That's a debt or a capital referendum. The other revenue limit exemption would be an operational increase. And that comes in two forms. It comes in a recurring ask or a non-recurring ask. And that's for an increase to your base budget, really for the things that you need to operate the school generally. So we're talking probably, salary pressures, ongoing maintenance, changes to programming, expansion of programming, those types of needs. You can also add maintenance into that if it's a small amount that can be done over a longer period of time. So if you're not talking about a large capital expansion and it's something that's manageable within that operational ask, you can add that to the operational piece if you'd like to. But we talk about that as being a non-recurring ask or a recurring ask, and I want to expand on that a little bit. So the two types of referendums on that operational side, one being the non-recurring. A non-recurring referendum has two very specific components to it. The first is that it has a sunset. So it's an ask for a very specific period of time. The other is there's an implication with that, at the end of that period of time, so you may ask for, let's just say it's $1 million for 4 years. At the end of that 4-year period of time, it's implied that that deficit still exists in your budget. You may have to go back to referendum at that point in time. So it's non-recurring. And you're probably thinking, well, why would we do that if we have the option of a recurring referendum? Come back to that. A recurring referendum is ongoing. So that's where you ask for an increase to that operational amount, and then it lives in your revenue base. It actually goes into your base revenue, and every year that gets calculated into your base revenue. So if you ask for $1 million on a recurring basis, you don't have to define the amount of time that it's there. It just lives in your revenue base. So why would you consider a non-recurring as opposed to a recurring? A non-recurring referendum we've seen throughout the state has a higher percentage of pass rate. Because I think the public thinks of it as being not a forever ask. And the public has the opportunity to kind of let's see if they do what they said. They did what they said, we'll approve in the future. So as opposed to a recurring referendum where it's just part of the base and it's kind of a forever, potentially it seems to live in your revenue base on an ongoing manner. The other is that on a recurring ask, because it's added to your revenue base, it becomes converted into a per pupil factor. And so if you have declining enrollment, and now this, $1 million that was, let's say it's, $13,000 per student, it's no longer $1 million, it's $13,000 per student in whatever it was in the year it was passed. If your enrollment is going down, it loses its effectiveness. I think of it as like LASIK surgery. And so, you feel great when you walk out of the doctor's office the first year that it's passed, but 4 years later, something that was a forever answer all of a sudden needs to be touched up. So it's very likely for a lot of reasons, not just enrollment, that recurring revenue ask is something that you may have to come back and add to again. And so the non-recurring referendum gives you an opportunity every 4 years or whatever you decide, 2 years, 3 years, to look at the reality of your situation, what's happened in the biennial budget, what your enrollment is, and actually write it to be, effective for what you need it to be moving forward. And so we have seen that's been a much more popular question. I will say that the numbers get a little bit skewed because, if you have a recurring referendum that occurs every 3 years and the public gets comfortable with it, and, that school district has done that for 5 times, well, that's 5 wins on the non-recurring side, it just kind of self-generates. So probably does skew those numbers a little bit either way. It's a challenge to convince the public that there's a need, but you'll have to decide what fits best for you. So graphically, we've shown what a recurring revenue and a non-recurring revenue look like. Yes, I just wanted to point out, we alluded to this earlier, but since 1990, 86% of the school districts in the state have asked for an operational referendum. And you can see on the map where those school districts are, there are very few that have not had to ask, only 59, and you're probably thankful to include yourself in that group. But, I will tell you, Marquez would also agree with me, I think, so, that there are a number of school districts in that white pie shape, that 59 number, that are considering going to referendum in November. So that relationship is going to change dramatically. I think what's even more telling is the next slide. So if you look going back to 2006, this is a chart that shows the number of school districts that rely on a non-recurring referendum for more than, or at least 10% of their operating budget. So think about that for a second. At least 10% of your operating budget was in a non-recurring referendum, meaning that at some point in time, 1, 2, 3 years from where you're at right now, you're going to have to ask the public for at least 10% or more of that operating again. So you're really, it's a critical ask. This is not like, oh, we hope it passes. You need it to pass if you're one of those districts in order to maintain the quality of programming that you have. It's pretty essential. If you look at that chart, you'll see that it's grown exponentially from 36 back in 2006 to 100 districts in 2024. So, it's a large number, roughly 20% of the school districts fall into that category. So various school districts, I thought it would just be helpful to look at some school districts since, basically this chart shows since 2019, some of the area school districts who have considered referendum, whether it's to issue debt or an operational referendum. You can see regionally, there are many that have. I guess, the takeaway here is that many have asked and most have passed for what it's worth. And you can kind of look through that list and you probably recognize the names and understand some of the asks. But I would say, it's probably about 50-50 in terms of whether or not those questions were to issue debt or whether they were operational. But I think the other thing, and it's probably hard to see, but if you look at the type of referendum, the operational ones are all non-recurring asks, with the exception of one in short for a recurring ask. And I think that that's somewhat telling. And then the last specific referendum slide that we have is just your specific history since 2005. All of your asks have been to issue debt, and since 2007, you've passed all 5 that you've asked. So it kind of gives you at least a basis when you look back as to what your community has supported and what they're used to considering.
All right, so we've been talking about the referendums, and obviously one of the things that comes up when you talk about that is what is the tax impact? What is the impact on your taxpayers that live in the district? And so as we go back to that revenue limit, your revenue limit makes up the bulk of your revenue for operational purposes, but your total tax levy can be made up of a couple different pieces. So there's the revenue limit portion of the tax levy. So that's your funds 10, 38, and 41. And so those are your actual numbers from the 23-24 school year. So that was $8,230,000. Value, you get that mill rate, and that mill rate really tells you, it's up around here, last year it was $8.59, and so that means for every $1,000 of property value, your taxpayers are paying $8.59. So if they had a $100,000 home, which is probably not realistic anymore, they were paying $859 in taxes. And if they had a $300,000 home, that would be looking like their school portion of their property tax bill would be about $2,500. So those, we're just discussing terms that are going to come up, or that do come up when you talk referendum. The revenue limit, the levy, the mill rate, things like that.
And just as a refresher, I know you're going to be talking about budget later, not tonight, but down the road. You're probably thinking, well, our budget was much more than $100 for school purposes. Where did all of the other funds come from? And you'll probably recall that, a portion of it is also funded through
And if you look back to 2016, it was up at $15.77. And that has happened for a number of reasons. There's been, the school levy tax credit is one piece. There's just a variety of factors, but for the most part across the state, most districts mill rates have been dropping over time, which helps out as districts go to referendum. The mill rate, your property taxes, or the portion that goes to schools, has actually been dropping as a percent of the overall your overall property taxes. And then on the next slide, we just brought in some of the surrounding districts in the Metro Milwaukee area, just so you have a sense of where are other districts and their mill rates. And some districts have lower mill rates for varying reasons. But Brown Deer is there in the teal cell, the left-hand side. You can see it's kind of in line with, just maybe a little bit above the average, but it's definitely within that middle group. Some districts are higher, lower. And that can occur for a variety of reasons. Some of them might be a K-8 or high school district, which means that their mill rate is going to be kind of less than a K through 12 district. Some districts have more money coming in through state aid, so they don't have as high of a mill rate. But it's just helpful whenever you're looking at comparing yourself to other neighboring districts, just to have a sense where.
And so if it's a K-8 district, obviously, the school purpose tax rate would be a combination of the high school tax rate plus the K-12 or K-8 school district, and that would be the comparative tax rate. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's why Nicolay is so low. Nicolay would be added into, if you live in Fox Point, it'd be added to the Bayside, or if you live in Glendale, it'd be added to Glendale or River Hill. So yeah, you're higher than we are when you add those two together, is your thing.
Right. If you compare to just, K-12 districts, you're, right in the middle of that path. So, as you kind of kick off your thoughts with regard to, what's in front of you, you've got, basically, I would say 4 things to keep in mind as you're crafting what that potential operational referendum may look like, or, if there is a need. The first is need. You want to understand what that need is. And we'll help, along with Kevin, in terms of helping you project your budget out so that we can see what the district budget looks like, assuming the current state of affairs and what potential need that pencils out to. With that, you're going to be able to project what amount you may want to ask in order to, close that gap. So that amount can be whatever it takes to fill that hole, or it could be a combination of what it takes to fill that hole and what other adjustments you may want to make with your budget as a board. So, I would throw that in there in terms of amount. Duration is going to be important. You're going to want to understand how comfortable you feel with whatever answer you come up with, how long it will be a good answer for you as a district, and that will lead you to some understanding and some other color regarding the type of referendum you want to ask. If you want to, ask a recurring or non-recurring referendum, and how comfortable you feel that either of those is your answer. And if you do have capital maintenance needs, whether or not it's appropriate and possible to fit those in within the scope of an operational question, or if that has to be a separate capital question. So when you think about that, there are some guidelines. So the state statutorily allows you the opportunity to go to referendum at any general or primary election. So in even years, for practical purposes, you have a spring and a fall opportunity to go to referendum. So presently, there are a lot of school districts that are preparing for a November referendum. In odd years, you basically only have that spring opportunity. Now, I frame that in terms of spring and fall because there are 2 dates in the spring and 2 dates in the fall, but they're so close together that you would never consider them as being 2 separate dates. You would do one or the other in the spring or one or the other in the fall. Reason being is that the state also requires the school district or any municipality going to referendum to approve a resolution 70 days ahead of the ask date. So, for example, school districts that are considering going to referendum in November of 25 are passing their resolutions by the end of August. If you're considering an April referendum, you would have to have your answers by the end of January. And so those dates are important because really that's your critical decision time. So any preparation that you're making heading into referendum, your decision point is really 70 days ahead of vote date. So if you're considering, for example, surveying, and we won't talk about that beyond just saying the words, if you're considering surveying your public, you would likely do that the season before you would ask. And so you want to have that concluded in a manner that you as a board could digest whatever information you're getting back from that and be able to make an informed decision on it. And so as you start to build out your time frame, that's an important date to keep in mind. The other important aspect of state guidelines that's really important to consider is that the state limits school district to 2 questions in a calendar year. So if you were going in an even year in 2026 for an ask, and you were asking a capital question and an operational question, and your operational need was critically important and your building need was not so important and it didn't pass, you wouldn't have a second chance to go back in November to ask that. And so, these are things that will help you think about and strategize around, but it's also just an important element to have in your mind as you're considering that date. It's not as critical in an even or in an odd year because you don't have the fall opportunity to go back, but it's still worth considering.
Okay, so it was operational, and what was the second one?
Capital.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So final considerations, understand who you are. No one size fits any school district. So you're going to get a good sense as to what your need is. Trust your instincts. Just because someone else has come to a different conclusion and you think your answer is different than theirs, trust your instincts. It's, obviously no one size fits all. And I think it's really important that you're starting this conversation now because continuous education builds towards that answer. It's a conversation that you can come back to as you're developing budgets, and it's a conversation that you can come back to as you're talking about other financial challenges moving forward. I'd encourage you to talk to your consultants early, whether it's us or others, especially if you're considering a survey. Have people come in and talk to you about what types of information that would provide you and whether or not you think that would be useful. Consider lots of scenarios, ask lots of questions as a board, ask your consultants, I'm thinking about this, it's a crazy idea, but I'd like to see it on paper. It's what we and others are here for. Communication is key, obviously, lots of communication to the board and out from the board into the public. So good luck and certainly reach out as you have questions. We're more than happy to follow up. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Right. All right. So I guess, excellent presentation. I think what it does, I think it's very informational to let us know exactly the things that we need to think about when we get ready to kind of generate, do we need to do this and what our ask may be, and everybody kind of being on the same page, the understanding of how it works, whether or not to do a recurring or a non-recurring, whether or not for it to be a capital or an operational or the combination of both and what the timelines are. And I think the biggest thing is the timeline part is the sensitive part for us and being able to think about, if we are talking about being able to do this and potentially having to do this, what our dates are that we have to start to look at as a board and putting out our communications to the public for their information and to be thinking about the approval aspect of it. And I think one of the other things too is whether or not it happens in an even year or an odd year. I think which is also one of those critical aspects to this and stuff because reading the information and from what you're saying, it's almost better if it could happen and even.
Yeah, and back to, the no one size fits all. My feeling is that when the need's there,
It's there.
it's there.
Yeah.
So
Note too, as we, I think we'll note too, as we get to, we're in budget.
Budget piece, yeah.
Yeah, we're in budget season. Annual meeting coming up really soon. So,
And that's one of the things we've talked about is the fact that, one of our narratives that we're going to have as part of the story is the fact that the reason why this year we didn't have to deal with this and come to the public at this point for this current school year is because we've had several years of positive budgets and surpluses, and we have our fund balance in such a point that we can ride out a year like this without having to worry. Part of my concern was it's very hard to ask people for help when you're also putting money in the bank at the same time. So I think we needed to demonstrate that. So while it doesn't work out in the even odd year piece where, potentially if our October, when you guys approve the budget in October and it's at a deficit of, whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we see that continuing going forward, it means that maybe we have to ask a question for April, Now, the other part is that if we were to ask a question in April and it wouldn't be successful, we probably have the resources to go another year or make some cuts without going completely drastic and have 2 more options
in 2026 to kind of right size whatever that ask is and see what the concern was the first time, around. So I think we have some definite possibilities to take advantage of it, but it was important to me, also as a resident to show, we're in a deficit now. This is why we need the help. So until we got to that point, I don't think we would have been successful asking for more.
And I think that is the biggest thing is for us to be able, again, people are informed, they understand, and they look at from a historical standpoint, what we've asked for. You start to look at, what percentage of their property taxes are going to the district and everything else that's happening. That's continually gone down for the last several years. And it's because we've been really, really good financial stewards of the dollars that have come into the village. And, you can only be so good for so long before the rubber meets the road, more or less, or whatever stuff. So I think there was this false piece from the budgetary standpoint is when we were getting those ESSER dollars, it was covering up a lot of our shortfalls that we had, which is, I guess, when you start looking at the pandemic, everybody said it was bad, but there were some good aspects of it in relation from a financial standpoint. But for now, it's back. And so, it kind of got kicked down, the can got kicked down the road a little bit, and basically we're here again. And so we're going to have to try to figure this whole thing out as a board and also inform our community the reason why and how, so they understand all of those pieces.
And the other important part is just the fact that, over time, as we've shown, it hasn't kept up. And so maybe we haven't been able to provide the same level of resources some of our neighbors have. And the reality is when you see that map and you see our little white dot in Milwaukee County surrounded by districts that have passed operating referenda, it's like these are the communities that are that families are moving into. These are the communities where our staff are working in instead of working with us. And we need, in order for us to have a vibrant and growing district, we need to make sure that we have the resources as well. So if everyone else, I know you don't want to, it's keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing, but if everybody else has that additional money and then those additional resources and we don't, eventually we're going to continue to, decline in relative speaking to what those other districts are. So it's almost a necessity just to keep, Brown Deer strong. So.
I had one question, maybe Kara, you could answer this. Can you tell me how many Black people are watching this or involved right now? Because
people are online.
yeah, and the reason I'm asking this is because I know I couldn't see, but I mean, this is good information and we need our community to be listening to these important meetings. And when we're having school meetings with this important information, we need to let the public know that you need to be listening into this stuff because us sitting here with 10 people is not going to make a difference for us to get our end goal.
Right.
So we need to do more communicating. We're having an important school board meeting tonight regarding referendums. There's going to be a great presentation that we're having. Please tune in so that people know that, hey, we need to start thinking about this because we're going to get to the end and people are going to be like, what? No one told us. It's like that communication's key. And without telling people like you should be listening in tonight, than us just sitting here. It's not.
But this is recorded now, so we can push it out now and we can share with people, hey, this was a great, listen to the first, 20 minutes, half hour of the presentation and listen to what the district is facing, and we can push that out to start that narrative. Because now that we have this recorded, we can see it at any point in time.
But it'd be nice if people were listening live.
Also true.
But we've always wanted that part though and stuff. So I think that's more of a thing for us. But I do know then having a conversation with Dr. Cotton and her team that we'll want to continue to start putting things out back on the website but generally, really cranking that out from a communication standpoint and being able to do that for several reasons. It's not only in relationship to this referendum, but there's other things that we have going on in the district that we want to continue to be able to put that communication, put that information out there, all of the good things, as well as the things that are concerned or whatever have you. But we want the community to be more concerned, be more informed, so that way we don't have a lot of this, people are kind of coming up with their own narrative for different things or whatever have you. So me and Dr. Cotton, we actually met last week in relation to that and to what we're talking about in relationship for communication, ongoing communication out to the village and to the residents, as well as potentially also partnering with the village because we already have a village in the school district meeting by every other month that we're already doing that. And we may if we're looking at this, partnering with the village as well too, to be able to disseminate this info out to the public. Excellent question, but excellent statement rather than question.
No other questions then?
Board members,
Thank you,
no
gentlemen.
questions from Beard? All right, I think we will be seeing each other a lot anyway, and Kevin, you are right. You have seen you a couple times, my friend. Okay, thank you very much.
Good seeing you again.
All right.
Much. Good night, gentlemen.
All right, let's go on to our next item, approval of new hires. Mr. Fleming.
All right, a couple things here on the employment summary sheet. First, we have our contracted hires of our teachers. We have Christina Bolden joining us as a special education teacher at the elementary school. Emma Geldy, an elementary school classroom teacher. Zoe, I'm not sure. Edamame, a classroom teacher, and Claire Karts, our middle school STEM teacher.
All right, thank you very much. All right, would someone like to be able to make a motion? And with this, I think we could be able to say the name in the school because of the hire date is the same date. All right? So would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Zito, I would like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Christina Bolden as an elementary school SPED teacher effective August 26, 2024 for the 2024-25 school year. Also for Emma Geldy as an elementary school teacher. And for Zoe Adamani as an elementary school teacher. And Clara Kurtz as a middle school STEM teacher. Again, all effective August 26, 2024 for the school year of 2024-25 school year.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Ms. Macon. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Motion is made and second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor would raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 5-0. So we welcome Christina, Emma, Zoe, and Claire to the Brown Deer family. Thank you very much. And we're looking for wonderful things to come from you starting August 26th. All right, our next one is motion to approve the.
We have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have one more hire, just that it's an administrator contract, as Dr. Cotton mentioned.
I was saying
Yep,
that.
Letitia Washington, yes, I apologize. Our new middle school principal is joining us tonight, and she will be starting with us tomorrow for the 2024 and 2026 school year.
All right. All right, so what we do is we need a motion to approve.
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make another motion. This one would be to approve the administrator's employment agreement for Ms. Letitia Washington as the middle school principal, effective July 24th, my baby's birthday, for the 2024-26 to 26 school years.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
My second motion.
Oh, thank you very much, Ms. Welch, your first one. All right. All right, motion is made and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a quick question. On her contract, it has an effective date of July 1st, but this says she's starting tomorrow. So is that?
The employment contracts run July 1st
So
through
just
June
because
30th.
of- okay.
But we did, with her starting date, she was waiting until after she got approved.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. All right. Any other questions? Here can see none. All in favor would raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any none? Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Ms. Washington.
Aye.
Welcome to the Brown Deer family. And we are so excited because, you know, we think about our middle school, and when we think about our middle schoolers and stuff, we need definitely strong leadership because those are critical times of development for our students. Anyone that has been a middle school teacher or administrator know exactly what, a parent of a middle schooler know exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you very much for becoming part of the Brown Deer family, and we appreciate you, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, let's go on to our next item. Item 5C, approval of resignations.
We do have several resignations this evening. Laura Romo, an elementary school special education teacher, Jason Sadowski, a high school math teacher, Caden Leggett, high school special education teacher, and Tatenda Chimboza, our school psychologist, actually at the elementary school, but yeah, our school psychologist.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Laura Romo as an elementary school sped teacher effective June 7th, 2024. You want all these together since the dates are different, or?
We've got to do them separate.
Okay, this one's also the 7th. Then a motion to approve the resignation of Caitlin Leggett as high school sped teacher, both effective June 7th, 2024.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing seen none, all in favor with raised hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing seen none, motion carries unanimously 5-0 for the resignations of Laura and Caitlin. We wish them the best in their new endeavors, and once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right? Ms. Walker.
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Jason Sadowski as a high school math teacher effective July 19th, 2024.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made. Do we have a second? All right, Ms. Bacon, thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor would raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously. We wish Jason well in his next endeavor, and once a Falcon, always a Falcon. And last,
I will make a motion to approve the resignation of Tatenda Chimboza as the school psychologist effective July 15th, 2024, pending receipt of liquidated damages.
all right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion made, second.
Dorothea.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And see none, motion carries unanimously. And thank Tatata for that, and Lisa, great job on the name. It got me great. All right, and once a Falcon, always a Falcon. All right, let's go on to our next item is to rescind contract.
Yes, we had one final teacher from 2023 to 2024. We made multiple attempts to contact and hoping that they would sign their contract, but they have not. We have reached out to emergency contacts as well and had conversations with parents and stuff, but no response. So at this point, we're moving forward with that. And so we're asking the board to rescind the contract of Mr. Harold Connell.
All right, would someone like to make that motion?
I make a motion to rescind the contract for Aaron O'Connell as a high school Spanish teacher effective July 5th, 2024.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Well. Motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you much, Ms. Walker. Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, let's go on to our next item, approval of leave of absence.
Finally, on the employment front, Mr. Brandon DeTage, who has been a middle school science teacher for the last 4 years, has requested a leave of absence. He actually has the opportunity to pursue, or at least attempt to pursue a music career. And so he has an opportunity, he has a band, I'll promote it, called Lake Effect. Lake Drive, Lake Drive, that's right. That played at Summerfest, and apparently they have an opportunity to do some touring this fall. And while his heart is definitely tied to the kids of Brown Deer, he may take, we may have an opportunity during some of his breaks to have him come back and be a substitute teacher for us, because he's got a really strong relationship with the kids. I said, absolutely, we will do that. And in lieu of resigning, I said, well, I mean, I wish you well in the music career, but they don't always work out. Would you like to try a leave of absence potentially? And then it gives you the opportunity to come back if you'd like. And he did, because we have done that before. And so he did kind of change his idea to go to that. So this does give him the opportunity to return. He'll notify us. I will reach out to him, but he'll notify us by March 1st of next year if he intends to come back to the 2025-2026 school year, if the board is so inclined to provide the leave of absence.
All right, sounds good. So would someone like to make the motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the leave of absence for Brandon DeTage for the 2024-2025 school year as presented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion made. Second.
Second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 5-0. We give him the most to be able to pursue that music career, and if he makes it big or whatever, we can all say that we knew him beforehand.
All right.
All right. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next item is our budget update. Mr. Clemick.
This will be very brief. Usually at this time of year, we talk about whether we're gonna transfer any money to Fund 46. I'm not gonna recommend that this year, but we are still finalizing some of the last minute entries for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Working through some final planning with DPI and some other things. So I am still projecting a significant fund balance addition for us this year. As one example, our open enrollment out was finalized, and so for this year we had budgeted $2.25 million. It came in at $2.1 million. We had about $120,000 savings there. Next year will be higher, but nonetheless, that's another, it's a nice chunk at the end of the year to know that we have extra. So I'm still working through some of the final details. I will have a better update for you at the first August board meeting, because that will help that'll set the table as we're getting ready for the August, the final August board meeting will be when you get a chance to approve the annual meeting budget, which will be what we publish, and that'll be the budget we present in September at the annual meeting. So far I'd say everything is going as expected, and it will still look like a good school year, good fiscal year for us.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I noticed on our sheet today with the expenses on it, I'm assuming once a year we pay the families for transportation.
That's
I saw
correct,
those
yeah.
numbers. Are those numbers included in these numbers that you tell us?
Mhm.
Oh, okay, cool. So you gave us that number, this is included in there.
That would have already been paid out in May. I mean,
Yeah, I saw
right.
the date, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was just.
Or June, those are the June vouchers, yes. So
Okay.
sometimes there's a delay, but yes, we do that. That is part of the state statute that we calculate we take our costs from the previous year, divided by the number of students, we get a per student amount, and then families who do not enroll in the district but enroll in private schools and within a 5-mile radius are eligible for transportation.
I mean, I think our number's like 248. I did a quick count. I think it was 50 something. What about the rest? They're not qualified for the transportation portion?
If these are students who don't live, they're not attending Brown Deer. They're attending.
Right, that's what I mean, right.
So, and they have to attend a private school within 5 miles
school,
of
gotcha.
the district boundaries.
Gotcha.
So we have a map of schools that are included.
Okay.
It also requires the private schools to confirm attendance, which
Gotcha.
doesn't always happen. And sometimes we get a delay, and all of a sudden a parent will reach out and say, I didn't get my contract. We'll say, your school never got back to us, and then we'll
Gotcha.
get a flurry of contracts. So,
Well, thanks for that quick
So it does
update, because I was just wondering all those things. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next item. Our camera replacement project. So I think I saw Ms. Turner's name on there. So, but again, is this Ms. Turner or is this Mr. Clemick or is this Mr. Russ?
It's a little bit of both.
So we're gonna tag team a little bit here. So-
Okay.
I'll let Kara start.
I wanna see how. Yeah. So after our last board meeting, the request to investigate what it would cost to do the whole project rather than break it up into phases, we did that. We worked, our partners from Heartland Business System and Verkada are on the call as well if we have any other questions. But we did, based on the executive summary, we priced out the 3, 5, and 10-year licensing. We are proposing going forward with the 5-year licensing term for the cameras. And that is a total of $390,237.36. And what that will do is that will cover the entire cost of the project. So that is installation, labor, any cabling for new camera systems, as well as the 5-year license. For those cameras, it also includes the environmental sensors as well. At the middle high school for those pieces. So so we've investigated that. We kind of communicated that to the board, hoping that you'd be able to kind of peek at it and see if you had any questions or concerns. And then I'm gonna tag team it to my colleague Kevin here to talk about the money. So
So obviously, this was, it was a little bit of a surprise expense that we wanted to invest in, but certainly it's an important one from a safety standpoint. So in my summary, I talked about a couple of financing options. And so tonight, I'm actually going to recommend we don't make a decision on the financing fees. So what happened, and we had a number of conversations today with both Heartland and Verkada. I appreciate the gentleman online. We had numerous phone calls. What we're still working through are a couple things. So I did get a financial, or they say lease, but it's really a loan financing agreement through a third party that's associated with Verkada. And those are the numbers that you see when I've quoted them, which they're good. But I just got the loan agreement yesterday afternoon. And because it's now a loan and not a lease, this will probably end up being a Fund 38 piece that we're going to have to address. And so I want to make sure of a few things. And the other part is that, as Karen and I have been talking, we think we may have a few additional resources to bring down the required amount of borrow. So when we talked to them originally, we said, hey, well, we have this $100,000 that's already earmarked in the COPS grant. So we can kind of count on that as a down payment. But really, when we also calculate in our local costs that we have to, our 25% match that has to go in there, and also some other budget items that Kara has, we think we might be able to increase that slightly so it isn't, so we would reduce the amount of whatever the borrow would be. So in talking to these folks, again, both Heartland and Verkada, what we're going to ask the board to do tonight is for you to approve the purchase of the camera systems at the price that we're talking about, $390,000. And then I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks just finalizing what that financing package would look like, because the reality is what we're going to do is we're going to provide a purchase order. But the key of this with the pricing is really for Verkada's end of their fiscal year. This is why we're getting the deal that we really need to execute the agreement tonight. Tomorrow, Kara will issue a purchase order. We'll get it over to Heartland. They'll get it over to Verkada. That process can start for them so that they can have the inventory start to ship before the end of the fiscal year for them. And then after that, we will, because it is an instantaneous invoice that has to be paid immediately, we have a little bit of time to just finalize that financing piece. And so my intention is to come back to you on August 13th with a plan, either through using with clarity on the agreement that's offered through Verkada's third-party vendor, or whether I really take another look at the state trust fund loan or some other option just to kind of see, and we'll have a sense of what that number actually is that we need to borrow. My recommendation would be to spread it out over 5 years, which is what I was suggesting anyway, so that it kind of matches with the license agreement. So this whole package would be $400,000 to be spread out over the course. I mean, and with an initial investment using a COPS grant money to help pay for that first year, and then other years just out of our operating budget. So I want to work on those details rather than rush through something tonight and make a decision that I'm not as excited about. I'd rather do it. But I think the key, obviously, for our folks online and for our partners is to, if the board is interested in doing the full package, is agreeing to that, and we'll move forward with starting that process, and we'll deal with financing pieces.
Right. So remember, everybody, I want everybody to remember is that what we're talking about the full packages. We're talking about everything that we were talking about, because remember, we were initially, it was only talking about the elementary school, but remember, but remember then we started to say that, a majority of our issues potentially is more of the high school and the middle school, and being able to do that, and then being able to look at the I guess end of the year deal or whatever it is that's going on and the savings that's associated with it. Instead of doing a piecemeal thing, we talk about being more advantageous for us to be able to do the whole thing, put it in one big package, and then it handles our part from our safety standpoint, our security standpoint, which we know is paramount to our community and to our families and to our students and to our staff. But then also from a financial standpoint, being able to take that and spread that out over 5 years and being able to do that. So it's kind of a lessen the cost for us from an operational standpoint. And so it's just a part of each one of our upcoming budgets that are getting ready to happen. All right.
I just have, sorry.
First one, I think actually Lisa was first, and then Ms. Macon.
Who is Heartland? I'm sorry, you talked about Heartland.
Heartland Business, and that's our vendor. That's
Okay.
The vendor who, and they actually are an advisor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. I just, sorry, I didn't ever heard that name.
All right, no problem.
Thank you. My
Ms. Macon?
question is kind of a quick one. Fund 38. What is in that budget now?
That's for non-referendum debt, so that is, we have none at this point. So this we'd be taking on, because this is, again, it's not a lease, it's a loan, so we would have several $100,000 in non-referendum debt. You as a board have the right to borrow up to $1 million without voter approval. So this is just a way of financing small projects that you might need to do. So we'll have to review it that way. And then what happens is the Fund 38, it does show up on the revenue limit worksheet, as they were just talking about. There's a Fund 10, a Fund 38, and a Fund 41. We don't use Fund 41, but so the $65,000 or whatever that annual payment will show up on our revenue limit worksheet. We'll have to isolate that and just show that we are set to pay that over the course of time. I know whichever vehicle we use, whether it is in this program or the state trust fund or whatever. So we'll start to have a balance in Fund 38 and payments coming out of Fund 38 to pay for this for the next, whatever the terms that we agree to.
Okay, I don't remember which fund it was, but wasn't there one fund where we had an excessive amount of money or had some money?
Fund 50 is
It's gone?
but Fund 50 is the food service, and
We can't do anything with that.
It's gotta be food service.
Unless we can put a camera and some stuff up in there.
We did have a residual fund balance in Fund 38, which we already moved.
Okay.
And because this is a different loan, that's fine. I mean, this was something that had been sitting there for several years. We moved it into Fund 10. Now we're gonna set up a new thing with this new debt, whatever it happens, however we structure it. So we would keep that.
Okay, so that's where it happened.
I'm sorry. So will you exhaust the COP funds then with whether it's gonna be a down payment or?
No, so the COPS fund right now, and that's the other part that we're working through. So right now, we have $101,000 set aside for new cameras and the NVRs, which are the recorders for the cameras. Now, we're not gonna need the recorders anymore because this is an entirely cloud-based system. So those two things merged together will cover about $101,000. We also, and we've been having conversations, we do have $20,000 set aside in the COPS grant to do through the I Love You Guys, which is the group that helps us with our response protocol during emergency situations. We had, the original budget was designed for them to come here, to pay them to come here and help us do tabletop exercises, to run through some scenarios and things like that. We are reconsidering that, and we think maybe just even our own local staff through either, Officer Oling and our police department, and just getting our team together, we can do some of that ourselves. So we may, in fact, put in a request to modify the grant application and maybe even shift that $20,000 into that fund as well. And then we have that. Still, in addition to that, we still have additional money set aside for more door access controls, because we just did the one building. We haven't done the elementary school yet. We have money set aside for that. We have money set aside again for protective film in the other buildings. And we also have money set aside for replacing all of our radios. So that money is still separate from this chunk we're talking about. So we'd be spending, if we include the extra $20,000, we'd be spending about $122,000. Plus we have to do a 25% match to do that. So you'd be looking at, 150, 160-ish. And if you look at that, then with the 390, you may be looking at financing 250 or 260 as opposed to 290. So we'd actually have a lower payment, a lower borrow in the end. So we kind of want to work through all that before we commit to an amount. And this process was kind of making us commit tonight.
I just have one other question, and it's related to any of the repairs that could happen. Let's just say we decide that we're gonna go all in. Are the repair expenses included in what's been presented tonight?
They are. So all the cameras and all the other hardware has a 10-year warranty.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I guess my question is, if we know we have this 10-year warranty, so we're in it for 10 years, is there any consideration just to get the 10 years? Like, I don't want to say it's only 110 more, but you're getting 5 years for 110. I mean, if we turn around after 5 years and have to re-up, then isn't it going to be more than 390? I mean.
Yeah, I guess it probably will be, but I guess again, if I knew what the future would hold, I would say I'd be more comfortable with that number. I figure we can't finance anything for 10 years. That, we wouldn't be able to spread it out that far. So just lining it up with the 5 years, we thought it would require estimate, and you're looking at the 28, 29, 30 year, where we'd have to make a decision to have money set aside for additional license. It would not be cameras. The cameras is
the licenses.
just license for the cameras. So, And the other thing too, is, you know, hopefully the technology hasn't changed, but
Yeah, that's the other reason.
Things are going right now, technology changes so quick.
And that was one of the things that we had talked about prior too, is like, I kind of like, where are they at in this? It's almost like our curriculum is, like, okay, you turn around and buy a curriculum, then all of a sudden, 2 years later, all of a sudden now they've got a whole new edition or whatever have you. So that was the other reason for the talk about more about the 5 year and stuff, because even though the cameras are good for 10, who knows exactly how the rest of this kind of works and stuff.
And
So
we discussed, Dr. Beadle, that Kevin and I had a conversation with our friends. But I think to determine, like, if we did go into an operational referendum, you know, licensing obviously is going to increase. It's not going to be at this rate. But we could look at that 5 year differential, and we could potentially see what the cost of that licensing is. So to kind of future proof and maybe potentially wrap that into a 5 year referendum again. So it's not it's hard to see items like this, like almost like utility, but you know, it's phone systems, it's internet, it's technology. It is very much a kind of a passive tool that we just have to have. So, but that is something that we are, you know, so we feel comfortable and very confident, you know, with the 5 year, and then we'll look at that.
I mean, I'm not.
No, if we have 100K, you know, it's okay.
And I'm not gonna lie to you either, even a $65,000 payment every year for the next 5 years is not, you know, easy, especially if we don't do a referendum and if it doesn't pass or whatever. I mean, you're looking at an FTE of paying for cameras. And again, not that is important and we wouldn't, you know, not that we don't do it, but we're gonna have to make some judgment calls in some of our decisions going forward. And obviously security has been a big piece. So I guess I'm balancing out, you know, the perfect scenario, paying out for the entire life of the cameras versus what do we feel like we're comfortable with? If we don't get that extra revenue, what am I comfortable with trying to set aside every year for the next 5 years? And that's kind of where I'm at. So.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? I mean, again, excellent questions or whatever. And I think the more questions we ask, the more comfortable we are with this whole process, the better off we are. So board members, any other questions? Anything that you can think of before we start to ask for a motion?
I think our colleagues are here to help or answer any questions if we have it, but I think we kind of know the product, we're comfortable with that, so that's good, so.
Unless they want to give us another discount.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Beadle, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Verkada camera replacement project in the 5 year licensing agreement with Heartland Business Systems in the amount not to exceed $390,238.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Macon. Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made and seconded. Any other further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I just wanted to bring your attention to Dorothea being on.
Dorothea?
We're up to 6 now, board members. Dorothea's on.
Dorothea, do you hear us? I noticed she's traveling. I know she was gonna be in here before, but
Said she was gonna pop in if she was.
if she could, but in order for us to count her, we've got to, Ms. Robinson. Okay, so we have to keep it at 5.
Wait a minute, she said she can't, what did she say? Can't speak right now.
Oh,
You vote?
I'd say no.
All right.
Say no for right there. All right, would someone like to make a motion? Oh, we already did the motion. All in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Clemick, Ms. Turner. All right, and we'll have our camera system. All right, let's go on to our next item. I left my phone in the car, so my two-way authorization to get back into my laptop is not working right now. All right, let's go on to our next item. All right, let's go to our facilities and grounds report. Mr. Russ, there you go. You tried to get away before, but you're back on the clock, my friend.
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to get away from you guys today. So, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. Our North Commons project that is going on right now is probably sitting at about 75% complete. We have floors, we have walls painted, we have electrical in, we have plumbing in, we are waiting for equipment. So we are mere moments from being able to say that this is complete. I'm kind of hoping either this next board meeting or the one after that for sure to say that that project has been completed. Another quick update is that we all around have been in full swing now of cleaning all three buildings. So all the teachers and staff have been kicked out and told them to go enjoy their summer, and we're in full swing with everyone working as hard as they can. My staff, I gotta give them a round of applause for as hard as they are working, trying to get our buildings to look beautiful for everyone for the first week of school, so to speak. And then shortly after that, I will call it quits. I don't have any other things right at the present time that are real pressing, so.
All right, only thing I will want to say right now, man, the grounds are looking pretty good. So, we want to continue to keep that up and being able to do that and stuff, because I think, we have also have some residents as well as our new district administrator and stuff, how wonderful our grounds and our facilities are looking. So we want to be able to continue that and stuff. So thanks, appreciate it, Matt, and for you and your team.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Russ for his facilities update? All right, let's go on to our next item, which is our discussion and approval of the ASC boiler replacement. Mr. Russ?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I have in front of you guys have 3 bids by 3 companies, Ion, Keeper, and Kremstar. I have had multiple conversations with multiple people on this project to get it all down. I am asking the board to approve Zion to replace the boiler here at the ASC. Reasons being is that boiler downstairs and the hot water heater are very, very old. The boiler was installed in 2009. The hot water heater, I believe, is original to the building. Believe it or not, it is one malfunction from us not having hot water anywhere or explosion.
If you could have seen the expression when you said that to right here, yeah.
It sits right underneath both of them. We're all, the rest of us are in the clear. So we're all.
Yeah, if you'd seen that expression right there or whatever, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's in dire needs. The last 2 years we have limped along very, 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 very hard to get and keep that boiler running. And we've done a great job of it, but it has met its time. And so with your guys' approval, I would like Zion to come in, replace our boiler and our hot water heater with something new and up to date and get us through like the next 15 years or so. So, do you guys have any questions?
Questions, board? I don't think there's any questions in relationship to this one right here. So with that being said, would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Administration Services Center boiler replacement project with Zion Mechanical Contractor Designers Consultants in the amount of $84,448.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion made. We have a second?
A second.
All right, Mr. Ashley, motion made and second. Any further discussion? You can see that all in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You can see none. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. So Dr. Cotton, Ms. Ross, you guys can be happy.
Thank you.
And warm.
And
Right, it's cold.
all right, let's go on to our next item, discussion and approval of the parking lot repairs and maintenance. Mr. Russ?
All right, good evening. Okay, so I know this is gonna be a really hard pill to swallow. But what I am looking for is that I'm looking to the board to approve right now budgetarily. I would like to say we should only go with what I am asking for, which is getting the main parking lots of the high school taken care of, which would be everything from this building and south. So it's main parking lot, the U-shaped parking lot, the visitor,
So from here all the way over to the high school?
correct.
All right.
In which would repair the 2 catch basins, the manhole that we have sitting in the parking lot at the back part, or the west side of the parking lot over here, which is about 150 feet by 24 foot pothole. And the grading system up at the U-shaped part of the high school. That would be my bare minimum. And that would, from the company that I would say that we could have do this would entail $65,395. Now, I also have in there the back part of the administration building, which we've known is been a problem for many, many years. Right now, we have 1 catch basin that sits at the far east part of our garage that catches everything from the road down here. And it has caused some great issues. If you guys have ever taken a staircase down to the lower level, you notice that there's a lot of unevenness down there. Our sump pump, which somehow miraculously has stayed dry over the last couple months. Not sure about that one. I'll get back to you on that, but I've had plumbers looking at it for years and can't figure out now why all of a sudden we're on a dry spell. So I'm gonna knock on wood on this one, hoping that it stays the way that it's staying, and only have to do the better part of the, hold off on the back part of the ASC, or just get it all done at once and just have back part needing to be completely taken out, regraded, another catch basin put in to help with the water that is taken care of, and also a grading system in front of the garage system that we have, because every time it rains, we have a flood on the inside of our garage. So this would help with flood issues and everything else. That would entail about $64,756 for a grand total $130,151 if we do the entire project.
Can you say that again?
100. Okay, so if we do the behind the ASC would be $65,395. If we do the main parking lot and all the damage or all the fixings that need to happen, it would be $64,756. Grand total for the entire project would be $130,151.
With that, on your executive summary, you have from 46, that whole amount would come from 46?
Well, that would be something that we would have to talk to Kevin about.
Okay.
And figure out what we would do depending on what the board's decision is on this.
Very likely in a deficit year, I would say we're just started pulling stuff out of Fund 46. So we have a little over 550 in there right now. So between these 2 projects and the previous one that he's talking about, they would end up pulling about $200,000 out of there.
And would this work get done before school started, or what kind of time frame?
They would try their best to get it started. The sooner I know, the sooner I can try to get it on their docket to get this taken care of as fast as possible. But if not, we would have to make them work around. The one thing that I will tell you is that this afternoon I was walking around and I just happened to notice one of the areas of the driveway is now coming to a sinkhole. I can actually see about 6 inches down now of clearness. I'm gonna have to start making sure that people don't drive on there. So our parking lots have not been touched since the 2018 referendum. Preventative maintenance suggests every 2 to 3 years, and we have not done it. So we've kind of put ourselves in a situation where we're playing catch up now.
I mean, if we're asking for opinions, I guess mine would be we should just, if we can if we have the money for it, we should just do everything. There's no reason not to. If we need it done, we need it done. And it's just a short Band-Aid.
So question, what was the total dollar amount that we wanted, if we had to do everything was $100 and what?
$130,151.
All right, I guess.
In addition to the 84 that we just approved, the replacement of
All
the boiler.
right.
I'm not asking as much as Kara, I just want to point this out.
All right, someone's on the road. All right, I guess my next question then would be is from a budgetary standpoint, and I guess I'll kick this one over to Kevin a little bit. If we were able to do the whole thing, which fund would it come out of? And have we already kind of put those dollars in the budget under particular line items to be able to fund this project for this upcoming?
Yeah.
FY25.
Operationally, no, we don't have the budget, but we do have Fund 46, so we can pull money out, we can apply it to that. So that's what I'm saying, we have about $550,000 in Fund 46 right now. We've made contributions but haven't utilized yet. So again, if you do all three projects and they all come through there, and it's a possibility we can, not take all those projects out of there. We'll have to see how the rest of the year goes to some extent. But, you're looking at probably cutting it in half or, not quite half probably, through these three projects. The thing about Fund 46 is I do want to make sure it doesn't get too small, because you do want to be able to have those 150, 200,000, $250,000 projects where you can, work on those. So and I know Matt's obviously we've had conversations about the back of the ASC for quite a while as well. And if we feel like that's a priority, then I think, the walking point, address it and stop the piecemeal.
Oh, I guess my next question is then, and this is looking out in 2 years or whatever have you. If we do the referendum and everything else like that, would that have been something, because we know that we have a facilities plan and everything else like that, to where there are certain years where we have like some timelines to where we think things that need to be done. And I don't know if everybody remembers that, to where we had the 10-year facilities plan, and we had stuff that was on there from 1 to 2 years and 3 to 5 and everything else like that. So Matt, would you say this project right here is one of those ones that has to be within that 1 to 2 year range, that we've got to get this done?
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it now, it's going to create other potential problems down the road.
We're then looking at safety issues. Not just as long as we are all understanding that it's not just a look pretty kind of thing. It's more, we're starting to summer, we're having safety issues. Come winter, we're gonna have potholes that are gonna get covered in ice. It doesn't really matter how much salt we put on them, we're still gonna have ice. We're now starting to see where we're getting a sinkhole. That doesn't get repaired at some point in time, relatively soon. We're gonna have a tire that goes through it, and we're gonna have damages. We have a tripping hazard at the bottom of the staircase that our public uses on a regular basis. There's a lot of things that are needing to be addressed, but this is definitely a critical one, I would say.
Okay, so in fairness to this or whatever we have on our motion sheet, approval of X amount of dollars or whatever. It's not covering the whole dollar amount that we're talking about potentially right now.
And
This was a partial. Yeah.
Right, that was a partial, but I'm saying
The fact that you're not gonna, you're being judicious and putting out and prioritizing the needs, but to your point,
I might need to
Ms.
just get it.
Walker, I just think we probably should get it done. As my colleagues just pointed out, it's also a safety and liability.
Right. And what's that dollar amount again? 100,
130, 151.
130, 151? All right, so extra.
With the same company?
Yeah.
So that would be with the same company.
Yep.
All right, and then so if we were able to, and I'm just putting it out there, so because we haven't voted on it yet, is that 130, 151 in stone? And if, again, they were thinking that we were going to do a partial, and then we're doing this whole thing, is there any leeway in order to go back to them and talk to them and be like, look, we were talking about doing the whole project. Is there any discounted amount by us doing the whole project? Because once they're already here,
Well,
again, it's less.
As I've been talking to them, they said, you know, if we do sections, it's gonna be X a little bit more. And so I told them that, you know, to give me the full amount at the cheapest rate that they possibly could, because, you know, most likely what I wanted to do was do the full project, but, you know, I would address it with, you know, with you guys with 2 different plans.
Okay, so with that being said, I think as a board, I think we need to discuss and say, you know what? Are we more along lines of going ahead and getting the whole project funded and approving the 130,151, or going with the 51,077? So there's our discussion point right there. Thoughts?
I agree with Lisa.
We should just get the.
We should just get the whole thing done.
And then again, the idea is that they would have this complete prior to school, sorry.
The sooner I know, the sooner that I tell them, the sooner I can find out if they can get this project done before school starts, correct?
And
Kevin?
if they cannot, then what's the plan?
Is that we would either they would have to come in and repair what is needed to get repaired, and then, you know, we'd have to wait for spring to get the seal coat and restriping, or whenever it was available for them in this amount of time to get it done. So whether that be, you know, we work with them and say, hey, we can cut off half of the parking lot Thursday afternoon, and you guys have the weekend to get everything taken care of on one side, and then in a week, you can take care of the other side from Thursday to whenever.
All right, Kevin, when we do have it.
The fund? Yeah, we have money sitting in Fund 46.
Okay, all right. Those are the questions we gotta ask. All right. So, I guess the motion would need to change the dollar amount of the motion.
From whatever they got.
Right, you got it?
Right.
So, yeah, 130, 151, not to exceed. All right, so would someone like to make a motion?
I'm making a motion to approve the district's parking lot repairs and maintenance with Suburban Asphalt Company in the amount of $130,151.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Welch. Motion has been made. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? You can see that all in favor will raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You can see that motion carries unanimously 5-0. So Matt, get to him.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will absolutely listen.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's go on to our next item is our safety update.
Good evening again, once again. I wanted to let the board know that this past week, we introduced Dr. Cotton to our wonderful safety committee with our Mr. Oleg, myself, Kevin, and Ms. Turner. We had a great and enlightening discussion, which I feel is going to move us forward in the decision-making that's moving forward as far as safety is concerned in our district. We are going to continue having meetings over the next couple weeks to verify some more things, get some things down before the incoming teacher week, so that we can set a precedence for everyone that's involved in that week. And then moving forward, what's going to be the expectations in the district as far as safety is concerned. So we are doing a great job. We'll continue having meetings, like I said, in the next few weeks. And then shy of that, we don't have any ongoing projects right now as far as like door projects, window projects, or anything like that. Our biggest one right now is to get Ms. Turner and her camera approved. Because that's the next stage that we were committed to. So now that you guys have approved that, that is fantastic. We can move forward with that security standard and going from there. Shy of that, I think we are at a good pace, and I'll have more further safety updates for you in the next coming board meetings.
All right.
It looks like a brand new school.
Thanks a lot, Matt. We appreciate your update. Questions for Mr. Russ? All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next item is approval of the annual notice of academic standards. Would that be Dr. Ray, soon?
I will be doing that for Dr. Glass. So we are looking for the approval of the annual notice of academic standards. We are publishing them on our website. As soon as they are approved, I think Dakota has already started that. And we are updating them to reflect the 2020 Wisconsin standards for English language arts and the 2021 Wisconsin standards for math for grades K through 12. Additionally, the standards for history, social studies, science, and technical subjects for grades K-12 have been published on our website for the academic school year 2024-25. All information can be linked to DPI found on our website.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ramos. All right.
But extra one stuff, no.
No, this is separate. This is separate. All right. All right. With that being said, questions? And is Dr. Glass on here?
No.
No? Okay. All right. All right. So questions. All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
Dr. Beadle, I would like to make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 annual notice of academic standards presented tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashley. Motion made. Second.
Second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Macon. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You can see that motion carries unanimously 5-0. All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Ramos. All right.
I will keep going. We are asking for the approval of annual notices of educational options. So the annual notice of educational options for children who reside in the school district of Brown Deer has been published on our district website for the 24-25 school year. Also been uploaded if there are any questions.
All right. Board members, questions? And this is mandatory. We have to, so. All right, any questions? You can see none. Would someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Vito, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 annual notice of educational options as presented by Ms. Ramos.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Macon. Motion made. Second, please.
I second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Welch. All right, motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? You can see none. All in favor will raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And see none. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. Again, congratulations. All right, let's go on to our next item.
Next item is also mine, the approval of the 24-25 CEQA contracted services. The bill was uploaded if there are any questions.
All right, and so everyone does understand CISA and why we do it, and because we are in that district or in that area and everything. So again, if you don't have any, does anyone have any questions in relationship to the CISA bill?
No, that's for training, board training. That's not the one for the board.
Contracted services.
This is our contracted services.
So like the audiologist, when we send someone to an outplacement, they provide us services as well. We do letters training with them, and we do certain trainings with them, yes.
It's on this page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was also like all of the training that we get. It's not just.
No,
This is the student stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Would someone like to make a, I'm sorry. Got presumptuous there. Any other questions prior to, all right, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024-25 CISA #1 contracted services agreement as presented.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Motion made. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion?
No, I do remember now, we had a list before and it showed us, I do remember that list that you gave us before.
All right. All in favor will raise hand and/or aye. Any opposed? You can see none. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. See, you went 3-0. All right, good job. All right, let's go on to our next item. Approval of the of the staff retention report, not approval of, but the staff retention report. Okay. All right, Ms. Jackson.
All right, so the information that we're gonna be presenting to you tonight is, exit survey information for, employees that reside in the school district in the school year 23-24. And the information was extracted, and powered by SurveyMonkey. That is the source that I used to provide you the data tonight. This information was pulled from, this report was pulled Monday, July 22nd, 2024. And so the exit survey was sent to 28 employees that reside from the school district. There were only 14 completions. So the information that I'm providing to you tonight is based on the 14 employees that completed the survey. And please remember that exit surveys are not mandatory. They are all optional.
Before I start, can I ask you a quick question? Remind me, they're like on a computerized or something? You don't talk to the person, right?
No, I do not. This is all done through SurveyMonkey.
Okay, thank you.
Which captures the data for you.
Gotcha.
So the
Okay,
data
thank you.
that I'm going to be presenting to you is
Thank you.
SurveyMonkey. All right, we'll just go through each question one by one, and I'll give you the data. So the first question that's asked in the survey is, what is your job title? There are 14 that answered. And 10 were teachers, 1 was an administrator, 1 was an administration assistant, and 1 was a custodian, and 1 was anonymous. And when they answered that they want to remain anonymous, that's just they just don't want to be identified what their role would be. And they do have that option. All right. Question number 2 in the survey, how long have you been employed by the school district of Brown Deer? 8 responses, 1 to 3 years. 3 responded 3 to 6 years. 1 responded 6 to 9 years, and 1 responded 9 to 12 years, and 1 responded more than 12 years. Question number 3 of the survey. At what location do you work? 6 responded from elementary, 6 responded middle school, 1 responded high school, and 1 responded district office. Question number 4, what is your primary reason for leaving the school district? In this question, also, they can choose more than 1 answer when they answer question number 4. So there were 7 responses for new employment opportunity, 2 responded to relocating, 1 retirement, 3 reason for leaving was wages, and 2 benefits, and then 7 culture, and then there were 2 other reasons that were stated, and they were all just personal driven responses. Question number 5, what was the most satisfying part of your job? There were 6 responded for students, 4 colleagues, 1 wages, 1 benefits, and 1 stated none of the above. And then 1 stated that it was just their impact with students.
So that's what the other is, when it says, that's the response when it says other?
Yes, yep, and I'll give you the details about what other means. Yep. All right, question number 6, did you receive enough training to support to do your job effectively? 3 replied yes, 4 said no, 6 said sometimes, and 1 is other, and they just stated that there was no feedback. That was their answer, that 1 other. Question number 7, did you receive insightful and constructive feedback from your supervisor or manager regarding your performance? We have 4 yes, 9 no, and 1 other. And the other was stated that they weren't observed. Question number 8, what aspects of leadership and management could be improved? We have 5 stated that it was communication. We have 2 stated listening, and 2 follow through, and 5 others there were the containment of 5 were all the above were three answered that. And one was follow through and the other one was communications. Did I need to go through that again? Okay. Okay. All right, question number 9. Would you recommend the school district for employment? We had 2 that said yes, 5 said no, 5 said I'm not sure, and 1 was other, and it was just personal reasons. They wouldn't explain or identify, it's just personal. That's my report. Do you have any questions?
All right.
Do you find this useful?
Yes, I do.
So, and I was gonna, just piggybacking off of that, remember the reason for doing this. Right, and so I appreciate you pulling the information for, the only thing that I'm just concerned about, I wish we could get more to respond to the survey. Do I think the responses that we have here are valuable? Absolutely. And I think when we compare this, from the other surveys, this gives us enough information for which, but there's some things that kind of stood out for me. That one, the fact that they didn't get they weren't observed. So those are things that I think we can.
And the culture piece.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I would like to start doing with the exit surveys, is connecting with the principals or the hiring manager with this information, giving them that feedback, so that, if there's a piece that they could offer correction or just serve as a value for being management and supervising, then that will be purposeful for them as a manager or a principal.
Have these same questions historically been asked on exit surveys? Like, is an exit survey offered across time to everyone who leaves, or is this new to being offered?
Yes, that's correct.
And so then thinking about that, then how do these responses trend with what you've seen in the past?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
How do the responses from this particular exit survey trend with what you've seen in the past? Like, are folks constantly
it seems to
saying
be
that communication is an issue, are they constantly saying that culture is an issue?
We're saying
The same.
Yeah, we're seeing there's a pattern.
We're seeing some patterns here.
Usually it's gonna be communication or culture. A lot of times reason for leaving a job is always gonna be relocating or something a little bit more deeper or personal. So this is a pattern. I think that the upstream for this time, from the last time that I prevented, we didn't have much data, right? The last time, I think there were only 1 or 2 people that answered, but this time, the responses have increased and the participation for people that are resigning have increased.
Right. And I do want to turn around. I do want to say one thing. Something that kind of makes me feel a little bit better about it is that, one of the major reasons why people leave wasn't our wages. All right. Because, we've been real adamant about trying to make sure that we're paying our staff fairly and trying to be competitive as much as possible and being able to do that. So that was one of the things that I found that I was like, okay, so we are trending in the right direction and stuff, because that was something that was really, really important to us. But we also know that these other 2 items, communication and this culture piece, have been things that we've been talking about or whatever and stuff. So it does seem as there's this trend that's there, and the things that we know that we need to improve upon or look at and being able to work with our staff on or whatever to be able to improve that. Yes, Ms. Fagan.
I was wondering if there's a way to kind of break down or aggregate whether or not some of those came from, like, let's say, for instance, the elementary school versus the high school, because you can have communication breakdowns in one area and maybe issues. Just is there a way to break it down even further to elementary, middle, and secondary? In high school?
I could probably toggle with the system a little bit because it's it's not as sophisticated as I would like it to be, because I do believe that we participate services with SurveyMonkey that are just the basic plan. So I don't know if the premium plan would offer up, you know, a little bit more, providing me with more robust information or sophisticated information like you're asking for. I could toggle with that. I'm not quite sure if that, but right now, that is not what the basic plan that we participate in for this information offers.
Okay, I appreciate that. But I do think that breaking it down a little bit more would give us a little bit more targeted way of approaching a problem if there is a problem.
That is one of the reasons why I wanted to share the information directly with the hiring managers and the principals. Just started offering up this information that would serve as feedback for the principals when hiring, and even for me when I'm making offers to employees. This information is valuable for me. If I have to talk about wages, if I have to talk about benefits, what is our culture like? You know, I do have those conversations with teachers when I am making an employment offer, and this information also serves, you know, as a yes, I will sign up. Yes, where do I sign on the contract? Sometimes people will say, no, those benefits just don't fit, but this does give me a little bit more leverage to engage with when making an employment offer.
So we need to turn some things around.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess the last piece of this is Ms. Jackson, why don't we just go ahead and order the premium package and be done with it? So that way we can just get all the information that we need. I mean, it can't be that much, a couple $100.
Right. And before we commit to that, would it be okay if I kind of just look at it and make sure that what you guys are asking me for, that this package can do it. But if we need to look at a different system that will provide the data that you guys are looking for, I think we are off to a good start, because this is the information that you guys a couple of years had asked me to do. And so, if we have an opportunity to improve this information and give you guys more feedback, I'll be more than happy to look into it.
So Ms. Jackson, I'll tell you what, our next board meeting, why don't you come back and let us know exactly what you found, if there's anything that we need. I don't necessarily know if it would be something that we would need to approve because of the dollar amount or because of it. But again, come back and give us information in relationship to what did you find and direction that we need to go.
Yes, absolutely.
We can double check. I'm not as familiar with the back end of that, but if the information is coming out of an Excel spreadsheet, basically there are ways to manipulate that to get the data you want. It's not necessarily in their interface, but we can certainly look at that as well.
Yes, I can extract it into Excel.
So we might be able to just do that manually, and I can work with it.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So let's go on to, I'm sorry, any other questions for Ms. Jackson? All right, let's go on to our next item, which is our Title IX.
I'm back. So I did.
You were supposed to say that, and you were supposed to say that in a different voice, Kevin.
Sorry. I did update the policy earlier today, or I updated the executive summary today because we did get some other legal things have happened recent, and I just wanted to share with you, and the board can do what you want to do. So again, we have this, the Department of Education is revising the regulations for Title IX, effective August 1st. There are guidelines that the school districts have to adopt these revised policies before August 1st. This is why we're kind of on this fast track to get that accomplished. We did a first reading back in June. I did post the policies, and the new draft of the revised policy for incidents that occur after August 1st. I did have Bob Butler from the WASB review the policy. He thought it was really good. The one thing he did add throughout the policy is the word unlawful when referring to discrimination or sex discrimination, just to help clarify it versus just perceived. So I just want to say it's unlawful. So he did recommend that. So wherever you see the yellow highlights, he added that. He also added the second, I think it's the second sentence or third sentence in the opening paragraph, just to help discern the difference between the Title IX statutes and the Title IX regulations and how this is referred to. Because again, the statutes aren't in question. this is, the Title IX statutes exist as they have been. This is a new, governmental interpretation of the statutes and how they impact the regulations, how they enforce it. So he just wanted to kind of identify that. The one thing he has thrown out there as a potential thing just to be aware of is that because there is ongoing legal challenges to this law, one of the things is, because one of the parts of it was the expansion of the definition of discrimination and sexual harassment and what parts are involved. On that first page still, under non-discrimination, the overview, that second paragraph where it says unlawful discrimination on the basis of sex includes unlawful discrimination on the basis of sex stereotypes, sex characteristics, pregnancy, et cetera. Those characteristics are the things that are kind of being challenged right now. So one thing that some districts have done, and again, it is it's a board decision, is you can end that sentence after the words discrimination on the basis of sex, right, for stereotypes. And you can put a period there and be done with it, because that is the generic version of what we're talking about. We're basically saying whatever Title IX defines as sexual discrimination, that's what it is. And then if one of those, if sex stereotypes or characteristics, or one of those gets discarded in the regulations, it doesn't require you to go back and revise the policy. Because basically, again, if you just go through that on the basis of sex, end of story, it covers whatever Title IX covers. So that's one thing you can do if you want to. But Bob did mention that some boards want to purposely call out those things, that they're not going to, discriminate and be specific and bring attention to them. In which case, which is fine. That's again a board, decision. We would just need to be aware of that. If something changes, it might.
Then we have to come back again and we have to change it again.
But I can't totally up to you. So those are the changes that Bob recommended. The other policy, the current policy, which is going to be, have the footnote to say that that's for incidents that occur prior to August 1st, 2024. There's just some minor things that change in there. The other part that we've decided internally that was new since the last time we talked is that historically the Director of Finance or Business Services and the Director of Pupil Services were the two Title IX coordinators. I don't know specifically why, but what we decided to do is to actually change that where Ms. Ramos as the Director of Pupil Services will be the lead, because you have to pick a lead under the new regulations. So she would serve as the lead Title IX compliance officer. And then Ms. Jackson would serve also as an alternate, as would I then basically as an alternate. But the theory being is that Ms. Ramos would handle could focus on student-centered case of discrimination. Ms. Jackson could focus on employee-related discrimination. And I would be available to serve as an alternate if necessary, specifically in case there's a gender situation that someone feels more comfortable working with, male employee versus female. But those two would be the primary two contacts for all discrimination cases going forward.
Okay. Board members, questions in relation, this is pretty straightforward. I think the only biggest thing for us is determine whether or not we want to end with the period, or do we want to continue on to specify in relationship to the stereotypes?
I'll just add to it though. So the legal complications, so I don't know if you're following what's going on, but there are several cases around the country. I highlighted it last time. The one particular one which happened after we met in June, it happened right around, I think it was the 3rd of July. It was a Kansas case that several independent groups along with states brought against the regulation, and that the judge in Kansas enjoined the Department of Education from enforcing the law in several states, which did not include Wisconsin, but it also included it for 3 independent groups, which if their members were enrolled in schools, it enjoined those schools nationwide from being able to be they can't be impacted by this rule. And one of the groups is so those 3 groups, including Moms for Liberty, I'm trying to remember what the Young Freedom Caucus, and then there was another group with athletes. Those 3. When they and then the court said you have until July 15th to tell us where these kids are going to school. The first 2 groups shared that, and so the number of school districts in Wisconsin where there are students involved with those 2 groups. Moms of Liberty said we don't really have that list, so can you just can you just enjoin all districts in counties that have chapters? And the judge said, no, and then said, you have now until July 26th. So they have until this Friday to, because they said they didn't have these lists. Milwaukee County does have has a Mount of Liberty chapter, but so far we have not been contacted or do we know of a student who is enrolled here that would be impacted. So Bob just said, and that's what I included on the second page of that summary. He just said, you may want to wait until July 26th, but again, all these court cases so far are saying is that the Department of Education can't they can't punish the district with this ruling because it shouldn't have it in the first place. So it's totally a board decision if you want to move forward. Many districts are moving forward. Some could could stand back and wait until that's decided. Completely up to you if you want to approve it tonight for a second reading, if you want to pause and see what happens in a couple of weeks and do it in August. We're pretty confident that the U.S. Department of Ed understands these challenges are going on and that districts who are trying, we've gone through a first reading, we're discussing it. If you decide to wait, I don't think there'll be any kind of financial penalty to us, especially if we adopt it in short order. So it's completely up to the board how you want to proceed.
Or questions for Mr. Clement regarding this Title IX and whether or not, does everyone feel comfortable even voting on this evening, or do we want to wait until after the court ruling for that to happen, for us to bring this back up for a vote?
I feel comfortable waiting. When's our next board?
August 13th.
August 13th.
Can we wait?
You can. The only issue would come in if we were to get a complaint, like if it's not resolved or if we don't believe we're enjoined and we were to get a complaint like on August 2nd that were to occur, we would just need to move relatively quickly to adopt the policy so that we'd have tools to investigate the situation. It's unlikely that would happen.
I mean, with no students now,
should it happen?
Yeah, right now we have no students and, majority of our staff is off.
But
right now,
athletics have started, so we start here in August 1st. I mean, that is, so I'm just saying it's not impossible to occur,
right?
But unlikely.
Okay, I just see a number of students who are exploring a little bit more. So, and I don't think that they should be judged based on, their characteristics, number one. And number two, I mean, I don't know if we've had any kids here that, got pregnant in high school, but I would definitely not want to, to alienate any child with any of those characteristics. And I think that we would be kind of setting a precedent to say that we're honoring and respecting the differences in all of our kids.
Right.
So that's my opinion.
This is just
it doesn't change their coverage under the law. It just changes the language and the policy so that if the law changes, you don't have to change.
We don't have to change things. So that's what we're talking about right now.
That's why I'm talking about being more specific. That's what I'm saying. We can be as specific as possible, given that we hail being this diverse school, then that would include us being more diverse and more conscious of the diversity that we have in our area.
I understand.
That's the
argument. That's the argument.
Wait, we got to do one conversation at a time. Hold on one second. Ms. Meg, I know you weren't finished yet. Okay, so you're finished?
No. I absolutely agree with that, right? But I think for me, the reason I say wait is I just want us to make the most informed decision possible. And it seems like there's some things hanging out there yet that are yet to be determined. So I'm just wanting us to be able to consider all points.
Ms. Walker?
If he says we can put a period there and call it a day, I say we do that, but whatever everyone else wants to do. I mean, if it doesn't change what we're doing, then it doesn't matter.
I just think that there are some more conservative school districts that have viewed that a different way than a more diverse school, like with a more diverse population, I should say, of school with more of a diverse population should be looking at. So I understand what you're saying, but we should be the ones setting the stage for how things work, given our demographics. That's just my personal opinion. I feel strongly about that. If we are the diverse school in this area, we should be the ones that are marching and saying how things should be, how they should be respected, or because some of those other school districts are a little bit more conservative and are not as diverse. So I've said enough.
I just want to clarify, I think you're talking about two different.
This is two different conversations right now.
Right.
The delay of the vote is one thing, and the changing of that paragraph is a separate one. So whichever way,
I'm still there.
Sure.
I'm
No, sure.
still there.
So if you're considering delaying it, then you can still have that conversation, whatever, but really finish it.
That's what I brought up to the board is do we, I guess right now, is do we want to wait until the court ruling and then find out everything else? Or do we want to go ahead and then we can say whether or not we want to stop at the period or turn around and add other pieces? Ms. Ashley?
So I'm trying to play it out, either way, because I do know that, you do have folks who are engaged in, extracurricular activities, right? That is my concern. Like, you know what I'm saying, just not having anything. And then the other piece to this is, say we decide that we're going to take action tonight, and then the deliberation comes in on July 26th. Can we bring this matter back? Why can't we just bring it back and?
Right. I mean, there's nothing for us to bring back. That was the reason why I was asking the question. Did we kind of want to wait on this one and wait until after the court ruling and then do it? Or do we want to go ahead and do it? And if we do it now, then do we want to stop with the period? Or do we want to turn around and add on specific items to it?
To Ms. Ashley's point, I think the only issue is what do you do if something occurs? And it's like, if it doesn't, if you don't have the new policy in force, then you're using the old policy, at least temporarily, to go through that process. If you use the new policy, you can use that unless there's been something that would say you shouldn't be using the new policy yet because it hasn't been decided. So there's gonna be some gray area until we know for sure.
Well, I guess my next question then thing is this too then. If we don't do anything, I'm just going both ways. So say we don't do anything, right? Nothing happens between now and then they do the court ruling thing and then our next board meeting and we can approve. If something were to happen, could we turn around and we could potentially have an emergency board meeting specifically on that if that happened, right? And so then that way we would know, we could turn around and we can make that decision right then and there for an emergency board meeting.
Because there's still regardless, there's still a policy in place to cover. And we need to follow and honor, right? It's just a matter of making these additions.
Yeah, the current 2020 regulation is our current policy, the 2264. That's the, I'm sorry, 2266 is the current version.
I can wait on it.
Wait, no,
I'm just saying, I can wait. I've just made my point, but I can wait, but I.
Okay, for sure. Okay, all right, so apparently would everyone feel comfortable waiting to make a motion and to approve our policy, the our Title IX policy until our next board meeting, unless an emergency happens.
With the understanding that we do have a policy.
We have a policy in place already that's in effect.
And you have a draft that I think you're comfortable with, otherwise that you'd be able to approve in a moment. So.
Yes. So you'd be okay with that? So is that one of the ones that we need to say that we're going to table?
But you can just.
Or just say we're not.
Yeah, you don't have to take action on it. We'll just know that if Ms. Ramos or Ms. Jackson or I run into a situation that we feel like we have to implement the policy, we'll have to call. All right. Let the board.
Okay. I probably would feel a little better about if we just made a motion to just say we're gonna table this discussion to the next board meeting, or unless there's an emergency. Would you guys feel more comfortable with that? I feel a little bit more comfortable doing it that way. So then at least if something that as a board we discussed and we did that. So would someone like to make a motion? Okay, make a motion to a table. Yeah, there you go. All right, you gotta say it. Yeah.
Oh, the approval?
No, make a motion.
Make a motion make a motion to table the Title IX.
Okay, I got it. So, yes, I'm making a motion to table, the Title IX discussion.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Motion has been made
Friendly amendment, though, if you do, you want to probably say that until the.
until the August 13th meeting.
Right, friendly
Making
amendment.
a
Right.
motion to, yes,
So-
table the discussion on Title IX policy until the next
August 13th.
2024.
Right. All right, thank you very much. So motion has been seconded again by Ms. Wells. Motion made by Ms. Wells, seconded by Ms. Walker. Any other questions? Here you can see none. All in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Any see none, motion carries 5-0, so we will table that discussion. All right, let's go on to our next item. Election of our board treasurer. All right, as you know, our board treasurer has not necessarily resigned, but she has completed her office duties and now has left. So we now have a new board member that is taking her place in relationship to being on the board, but not as treasurer. Per law, we have to have a treasurer on the board. All right, so would someone like to make a motion to for treasurer?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Lisa Walker to the position of board treasurer.
All right, we have a motion. All right, do we have any other individuals that would like to nominate anyone? All right, so now we have a motion for Ms. Walker. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Megan. Motion has been made and seconded. I guess the discussion piece is Ms. Walker, would you accept the nomination if approved?
I will accept if approved.
All right.
I promise to do my best.
All right, sounds good. So with that being said, all in favor of Ms. Lisa Walker becoming school board treasurer for the District of Brown Deer, would raise hand and or aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion is unanimous. Ms. Walker, will you accept?
I will accept.
All right, so now this is where the balloons and all that stuff is supposed to fall down and everything. You get the Miss America thing wave going and everything. All right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. All right, so we have our new treasurer. All right. All right, let's go on to our next item. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
That's smooth.
Okay, I got it. Oh, there. I know I'm asleep.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to our board reports. SWSA legislative update is, there's so much. Huh?
Et cetera, et cetera. Did you notice Ramey says et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
There you go.
There we go. I'm just there. There's someone, we'd be here all night. Ms. Ashley?
I just would encourage the board members to take a look at the webinars for the news members.
All right.
And it's with the WASB, it's on the WASB website.
Yeah, that's Association of School Boards. And so Ms. Welch, you actually should have gotten something, well, we just did it tonight. So she should be on the list now to be able to get all of the WASB information sent to her home and everything. And then we also need to have her get. Sharonda should be on there already. Yeah, it's fair, should be on there already. So Ms. Welch to be able to get on all of the information that'll be coming, but then also we need to get her set up for different training, like the new school board member orientation and things of that nature. So Ms. Welch, when those opportunities come, contact Ms. Ross, and Ms. Ross will get you registered and everything else like that. All right. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Ashley?
No,
Et cetera, et cetera.
that is the end of my report.
Et cetera, et cetera. We're gonna use that in my other meetings. All right, good job. All right, and foundation report. I didn't have anything from Ms. Robinson. So just leave it at that. And then Parks and Rec.
Yeah, the Park and Recs has not had a meeting because we cannot get
So I'm hopeful that Danny's back or we have one.
Right. And that's the, Danny is.
Danny Gross, the Park and Rec Director.
Okay.
Yeah, she should be coming back. She should have come back anytime, like maybe 2 weeks ago.
We hope.
No, I think she did. So anyways, but yeah, there was no meeting. So I will be going to the next one, whatever it is.
All right, sounds good. Our board and planning calendar, August 2nd is our summer board retreat. The 13th is our special board meeting. The 21st is community vibes. So hopefully there's no rain, there's nothing. I'm trying to figure out though, there almost needs to be something we can do for inclement weather when we're doing some of these different things or whatever. So I'm not offering to open up the field house or anything or whatever, but I don't know if there's something else that we may be able to do in relationship to that and stuff, because I know that the June one, there was a lot of people that did rain and everything. Yeah, so, but again, no, August.
Oh.
Yep. All right. And then August 21st to the 23rd is new teacher week. The 26th is the welcome back kickoff. Board members, if you're able to and stuff, I always encourage board members to come when those teachers come in and everything else like that, for them to be able to see the board there as well too, to know that we're there supporting them and everything else like that. And the food is usually pretty good. All right. Then on 27th is our regular board meeting. Open house is on the 28th. The 2nd, of course, is Labor Day. First day of school is the 3rd. September 4th is the first day of school for 4K through 12th grade. I'm sorry. So September 3rd is the first day of school for K5, 6th grade, 9th grade. So those are the students that are in transition. All right. And then the following day, the 4th, is the first day for everyone. And then September 10th is our special board meeting. The 24th, our regular board meeting. And then the 26th is our budget hearing and annual meeting, in which by September 26th, ladies and gentlemen, we better start to understand whether or not what we're going to be looking at relationship to referendum. And if there was something that we really want to be able to do, so Mr. Clemick, we'll be looking for numbers, my friend, kind of figure some of this different stuff out.
And would it be possible, remember we had that sheet, and I'm not sure, Matt, if you were responsible for doing the priority sheets, remember this was that.
Now, the priority sheet for facilities.
Okay, facilities.
Yeah, we're working on that.
You're redoing it now? Could you get that to us like before the next board meeting and stuff? Because I would like to, if at all possible, I would like to have that on the agenda for our next board meeting so we can start to look at some of those projects.
I would see where that would be a problem, considering now that we have a few of these projects now approved, I can put more concentration onto that one.
It really focus on things that are the 1 to 3 year range, then that 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, and then that 8 to 10 year range. I mean, really be able to focus that, because that's also going to be a part of when we start talking about if we do for the referendum, some of that stuff, operational and facilities.
Right, especially when we're trying to ferret out whether we're gonna go operational or is it capital? Operations or.
But we could do the combination of both. And I think that's the thing that I really wanted to focus on potentially, is the combination of stuff, because of the sheer dollar amount of some of those numbers that we have from that facilities projection, that 10-year facilities plan. So I really would like to be able to focus down and hone in on that, because those numbers are also going to be part of potentially any referendum that we do. So because we do not have enough money in our regular operational budget without some of these changes to be able to support some of these facility updates that are much needed.
So third Friday will that come before the annual meeting or? Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, we won't have our reporting quite done, but we'll have a pretty good sense. But it won't be in the budget that gets approved by this, but I'll explain what's coming based on our.
That's the reason why I wanted to make sure that we are able to potentially get some of this, because it's also going to help us with our informed decision when we get ready to do this and start to hone down on particular numbers and stuff like that. So.
Can you tell me the board next week, it starts at 9, does it have a particular
It was 9, was it 9 to 12?
I don't know.
Yeah. I thought it was 9, I thought.
like 9 to about 1.
Oh, yeah, it was 9 to 1 because we brought lunch in or whatever, so it was 9 to 1.
to make sure what was, I just didn't see
Huh?
so thank you.
Right. It was continental breakfast provided at 8:30.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, I think the continental breakfast part was 8:30, but. Yeah, so we had continental breakfast at 8:30, meeting starts at 9, lunch at, I don't know, 11:30 or whatever, working lunch. All right, I know we all probably used to that one. Yeah, okay, anything else? All right, and if not, I'd like to have someone make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made. Do we have a second? Thank you very much, Ms. Welch. Motion is made and seconded. All in favor will raise hand and or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Never get nobody to say no. All right, I officially call this board meeting to close at 8:38. 8:33, okay. At 8:33 p.m. All right. Okay, all right, so thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening and appreciate everybody. All right. Let's watch.
The second.